Hello everyone and welcome back to a new HarstemCast. Today we're going to be having a look at a game recently played between, in the bottom left spawning as the blue Zerg player. It's going to be Reynor, and in the top right it's going to be Neeb, who has been AFK for a while. When I say AFK I mean away from the scene for a while. He wasn't that active. I haven't seen him on ladder as much, which is rare. Neeb is an extreme ladder beast. He loves the ladder, he loves to but just play a crap ton of games and improve that way. Now I don't know what he's been doing. I don't know where he's been. All I know is that whenever Neeb is gone for a period of time, usually when he comes back, he is extremely good. Like he seems to really thrive after taking a break off, whether that is 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or even as much as a month. He seems to just get fresh ideas and shows a lot of new things. So I'm kind of curious to see where this is going to go exactly, as he's just opening up with a very standard 1 gate expand, of course. Now, Reynor, on the other hand, we should all know him. The Italian Stallion, as his nickname is. He's opening up with a hatchery on the 3rd base location. Of course, got blocked on that natural, and we see Neeb trying to harass these minerals a little bit. Neeb keeping it slow for now with a solid 100 APM currently. And we see the average APM of Reynor around 750. Seems about normal. Now, of course, the APM of Zergs is always a little bit inflated. So what they do is you can up the repeat rate on majority of the keyboards you use. To have it at like 32 times the normal speed, and then the moment you build like a Zergling or a drone, it basically raises your APM to like 1000 or 1200. So whenever you build a unit, your APM tends to spike really, really hard as Zerg. Some people also use rapid fire on things like spread and creep, and that would also raise their APM. So you kind of just have to add like usually 300 to 400 to the APM of a Zerg player to get the actual APM that they have. We see the natural hatchery coming, or sorry, yeah, well, the 3rd hatchery coming down on the natural location. There we go. A tricky sentence that one is. Then we see Neeb open up with our standard Void Ray play. Now, this is becoming more and more common lately, right? Just seeing those Void Rays being used so much in the early game in PvZ, followed up by a 2nd Stargate and more Void Rays. Really just one of the safest ways to play this matchup currently, with all the Queen All-ins that are out there. And on top of that, it allows you a nice transition into a longer game, in which you potentially can be going into carriers, into Tempest, and the Airtals against Zerg just seems extremely powerful. It's very, very nice to play, and it's something that Neeb has been good at for a long time. Someone that also likes to kind of use Tempest in his play, which not a lot of tosses feel comfortable using. Slow movement speed, terrible turn rate, low acceleration. Like, all of these things kind of make them difficult to micro, but they're long range and high damage against both massive targets, and with the upgrade Tectonic Destabilizers, I think it's called. Also gives you some good potential against spore balls, against buildings, helping clean those up a little bit quicker. Now, we see the Oracle just straight up flying into the natural, going to be able to actually take out a couple of drones for double spores, at least in the natural. Of course, we still have the real spore being built as well. Neeb needs to be a little bit careful. You can just go around flying in every single base. There was no spore here either. Did he skip spores at every single base except the main? Yep, he did. Going to be seeing Forged Twilight here as a follow-up coming out of Neeb, continuing with the Void Ray production. So for now, to me, this looks a lot like he is... He does want to pretend like he's playing double Stargate, but he doesn't actually want to be playing that double Stargate. So he's going to be getting that faster tech because he's saving 150 minerals. His Void Ray count is going to stay relatively similar to what the Void Ray count would be had he played double Stargate. The difference here is going to be that he needs to invest a little bit more chrono boost into that Stargate, and also he will have faster tech. So that's basically going to be the main difference. We see 3 Void Rays moving across the map right now. Oracle is still alive as well, and these 3 Void Rays are going to be extremely useful against a lot of the early game shenanigans that Terran, or Terrans, excuse me, that Zergs have been pushing out lately. We see charge, we see +1, and we see a robotics facility go down at the 3rd base, as well as the gases being saturated here by Neeb. Now these 3 Void Rays should not be able to do too much if Reynor is in position with his queens. He has 8 queens right now, and you'd say that's plenty to deal with 3 Void Rays. That should be the case, but somehow, some way, Neeb is still still managing to get some damage here. One Void Ray is running low on health, as all the shields have depleted at this point. This base shouldn't really be capable of dying, as we see good queen positioning now coming out of Reynor. This probably should have be done a little bit earlier. It's going to be going up to 10 queens. We see Hydra Bane as a follow-up. Now there's been some very popular responses against the Void Ray style, and one of them is this Hydra Bane push off of 76, 75 workers, where you get your baneling speed and you're supposed to be hitting between 725 and 740 with your queens, with a bunch of banelings, with baneling speed and +1 on your air weapons. Now ideally you hit before this base is truly set up, so before the cannons finish, before the batteries finish, etc, etc. Nexus is gonna go down. We see Archons being loaded in a prism. I am not sure about this, Neeb, but Neeb is sure about it as he starts moving across the map. Meanwhile, Reynor also starts moving across the map. I mean, this is going to be a bit of a mismatch here, I feel like, as the Hydras are moving forward. No, Zealots come in from the side as well. This army somehow is staying strong here for now. 8 banelings are on the way, so even though it felt like Reynor was going to do an attack, Neeb is like, you know what, if you want to do an attack, that's fine, but I'm also going to do an attack, and I'm going to hit in your main base with a bunch of Zealots, a bunch of Archons. We're going to have split armies, and Hydra Ling Bane is really weak against split armies, because none of these units trade very well against Zealots, unless you have a lot of banelings to clear those. Now there's double prism on the map currently. He's warping in 2 locations, sentries for the ramp, decent force field, perhaps a little bit late after all the Zealots died. I love this move coming out of Neeb. We rarely ever see this, and it is doing work. It's the 2nd force field as well. There's 1 more force field remaining. No, there's 2 more force fields remaining. This main base is basically gone at this point. We have this main army over here. We now see Reynor pulling back even more of his forces. Single force field still remaining. Are we gonna see another sentry being warped in here? I don't think so. No more sentries being warped in, and this will be the end of this little push, but not before he most likely takes out 10, 12 extra drones. He actually force fields the ramp in a PvC. This is something we haven't seen since, I want to say, well, the Heart of the Swarm, before the Ravager was there basically, but sadly for Reynor there were no Ravagers here. It's just, oh my god, Neeb also pushes forward, takes out the 4th base, so Neeb in a fantastic position, does need to be careful and not push too hard over here, as pushing in a little bit too hard might cost him this game in a counter-attack, and I honestly don't see a way for him to lose unless he loses in a counter-attack. I mean, he's just up so far. This has not been a good trade in those past 10-15 seconds. And he decides to just kind of F2 back home. You can see it's a true F2 as the Observer also flies away. There's no unit in the wall. We see Oracle coming back home, the Void Rays coming back home now. I think Neeb is still in a fantastic position. He's going to be getting his +2. He's getting his Storm as well. And he's looking to be in pretty decent shape, I'd say. The only thing I'm afraid of here for Neeb is that there's still the possibility that Reynor does a counterattack at some point. Doesn't seem to be the case, as Reynor is extremely afraid of the prism that isn't even here anymore. Is there even a prism on the map? There is a prism on the map, but it's moving towards the far right side currently. So we see a couple of cannons going down. Neeb's gonna go for another round. I have a bit of a double feeling here. Of course, you don't want to give your opponent too much time to set up, but on the other hand, you're playing against a guy who's down 7-8 workers. you're outmining your opponent. Like, the situation is just improving. I'd love to see a transition into perhaps Fleet Beacon, second Stargate. Now, don't get me wrong, this could potentially work. We see a couple of good storms coming down as well. Perhaps just going to be going for another cancel on that forward base. Good kiting out of Reynor though, and this is the thing I'm so afraid of, is that these Hydras, if they're not being attacked properly by Zealots, it can be very difficult. Now we have a massive Zealot run by being sent into the third base. The problem is that this isn't really being synced with the main attack. This kind of comes as an afterthought here. Now, he might still be able to get something done. Try and right-click that hatchery down, perhaps. It's going to be a nice trade. Once again, lurkers are morphing at the fourth base over here. And Neeb once again takes out the base. So even though this attack hits a little bit late, it's still, what started as a run by the way, is now kind of a real army. I don't think he can just attack into this though with his pure Zealot single Archon army. I feel like we should be looking into, yes, there we go, Fleet Beacon, double Stargate. Fifth base should be going down soon as well, as Neeb wants to keep expanding his lead further and further. Run by being set up here by Reynor. Now you might be asking, why isn't it Banelings? It's because Reynor opted to go for the range upgrades rather than the melee upgrades, meaning that Baneling run bys are going to be way less effective than if he had those melee upgrades. Now you could say that's a mistake, but I don't think that's a mistake, because Reynor knew he wanted to eventually transition into lurkers, into those Hydra lurker armies, and then perhaps playing a late game from there if his initial push wouldn't have worked out. But Reynor never really got the opportunity to make a push, as he was dying on his own side of the map. And yeah, Reynor honestly is just in a little bit of trouble. And when I say a little bit, I mean he's pretty freaking dead. He's down 30 supply. Air weapon upgrade is being researched. There's no seismic spines on these lurkers yet. Hell, there isn't even a hive yet. This is an 8 range lurker push without adaptive talents, without seismic spines. There is a single Baneling in this army as well, which is going to achieve absolutely nothing. Engagements in this army for Neeb are not going to be pleasant, but they're going to be way more pleasant than it ever would be against a 10 range army. And actually Neeb is like, you know what, this is 8 range, I can just move in, this is fine. We see a double pronged attack here coming in. Well, make that a triple prong, as Neeb is also engaging now with the main army. Triple carrier production on the way at home. We have +1, and a little bit of a Ling run by is finally doing some damage, but that is nothing in comparison to what all of these Zealots here are achieving. Sure, it's only 7 drones, but once again he takes out the third base. There is a fifth base done here for Neeb, and as Neeb is transitioning into carrier, his opponent is struggling to even build an infestation pit to get into hive, let alone start seismic spines and adaptive talents. For lurkers do start moving forward. Supplies seem deceptively even, not actually the true case here. And here we see the runaway, the pull away with the probes away from these two Baneling. Alright, Neeb, you seem... it's okay, they don't have +2. If that Baneling had +2, that was a different story. You just lose 10 workers there, perhaps. But as is not the case, Neeb decides, you know what, I think it's time to go home. I have 5 base, you have 3. I have carriers on the way. You don't even have a spire, you don't have a hive. What is the only possibility that I can lose? And Neeb realizes it is by dying to this push. This seems to be the final hooray of Reynor. Doesn't work out, so Reynor has to tap out, and Neeb wins this game here on Jagannatha. Now, if you did enjoy this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to smash the like button, so I can keep begging my friends for more cool replays. Big shout out to my man Reynor for sending this one, even though it's a loss. And I hope to see you all next time for more videos. Bye bye.